Hello, Elder Scrolls Nation. I am excited to start a new series today, one I've been planning and looking forward to for a long time, and that is the Elder Scrolls Lorebound, where together we will uncover lore and events from before time itself even existed within the Elder Scrolls universe to the very end of time as we know it, to everywhere in between. By the end of this series, I want us to have covered everything there is to know about the Elder Scrolls lore together, if that is even possible. I love Elder Scrolls lore. The lore is always deeper than you think, and the more you look into the lore, you uncover more and more mysteries for every answer you may find. And one special thing about the Elder Scrolls is that the lore and history is told by the people that live within the game world itself. Whether by ancient religious tradition or historical text written by a monk at Wayne Priory, I have tried to uncover every scrap of information there is to find from every possible source about anything that we will explore together in each episode of the Elder Scrolls Lorebound. And Elder Scrolls lore, being a history told and recorded by the people within Elder Scrolls itself, has some biased opinions, fudged truths, and even some straight-out lies regarding certain events or time periods based upon the author themselves. Just like our own history, we have to be aware of these biased opinions, personal agendas, and individual unique perspectives of each author or source of information. Using all of this and keeping all this in mind, I have tried to find the best balance in what I think is true to how events actually happened, and this understanding is what I'll be sharing with you in all of these videos. So while I may briefly touch on cultural differences on how certain events may or may not have happened, I will continue to stick to what I think the actual truth is throughout this series. Now in the first episode, we are going to begin from the earliest known point in Elder Scrolls lore and history, a period so early that both time and the universe itself don't exist yet. This period of time is known as the Dawn Era. In this video, we are going to completely explore the Dawn Era, and together we will discover the secrets of the creation of the universe and time itself, the origins of the Aedra and the Daedra, the origins of Magicka, and the creation of not only Nirn, the planet on which the Elder Scrolls takes place, but also the history before Nirn was formed into the planet that we know it as now. So get ready, get your mead and your skooma on your quick slots, for we are lore bound for the Dawn Era. In the beginning, there was darkness. And from the darkness, vision. There was no Orbis, no universe, nor Aetherius, no structure, no time. Only two forces, each the equal yet total opposite of the other. The forces of chaos and order. The universe, before it was the universe, was simply the chaotic unbalance of both order and chaos, fighting for an undocumented eternity. Most cultures believe that order and chaos were brothers, with the force of order being the older brother of the two. Other cultures believe that chaos and order were just energy, and whether this ethereal energy had consciousness was never really documented nor discovered. None of this is truly known, but the following events that transpired are mostly agreed on across all of Tamriel, except for a few name changes and other differences. For instance, the Khajiit believes that order and chaos were lovers and not brothers, in a sense. But let's carry on. Out of the chaotic primordial emptiness, two personalities arose, whether spirit or energy. The force of order was known as Anu. The force of chaos was known as Padme. Anu the Everything is a personification of light, order, and stasis. Equal in power, but opposite in everything to Anu is that of Padme, who personifies change and chaos. While neither are inherently good nor evil, they are both just forces, both equal and conflicting. And the conflict between these two equal but opposite godlike personalities are necessary and dictate all that follows. After Anu and Padme formed, they continued to fight as the forces of order and chaos did long before. One never gained an edge over the other, yet they continued fighting for who knows how many undocumented eternities, as time itself has not yet formed. As they fought each other, they left behind energy and markings throughout the void, adding to the chaos and instability of the void around them, thus setting in motion the very early events that would create the Orbis, the universe. Eventually seeing what their endless and futile eternal battle has done, forever altering the Aetherius around them, Anu and Padme decided to retreat, rest, and reflect on their endless struggle against one another. It is unknown whether these beings actually grew tired tired and had to rest, or if they were so intelligent that they realized how pointless it was to just keep fighting an equal opponent, so they called the fight off to think of their next move. During this period of reflection, both Anu and Padme developed and formed their own spirit or soul. This soul was the embodiment of all of the knowledge and wisdom that Anu and Padme both gained upon their own period of meditation, respectively to one another. Anu birthed Anuiel, and Padme birthed the ever-infamous Sithis. Anuiel, the soul of Anu, was known as the soul of all living things by the Eldmeri, or the All-Maker by the Skallic tribes. Anuiel is the original soul, the original and first true spirit to ever enter the Aetherius. Anuiel is an embodiment of light and order. Sithis, the soul birthed by Padme, is again the opposite of Anuiel, just like Padme is the opposite of Anu. Sithis is the soul of darkness and chaos, being the literal embodiment of the limitations and opposites of Anuiel. Anuiel found the Arbus to be very chaotic, turbulent, and confusing, with no sense of structure, order, or reason. Time itself didn't even exist yet, so events and even the Orbis itself didn't have much meaning or foundation. Anuiel, doing what his father Anu did, decided to reflect and meditate on all of this to find a way to stabilize the Orbis and bring a sense of reason and order to the early universe. Upon all this reflection, Anuiel birthed another soul into the Orbis, just like he himself was born from Anu's meditative period. This new soul is the embodiment of all of the knowledge and wisdom that Anuiel gained, and this soul was called Auriel, better known as Akatosh, at least a very early version of Akatosh. With a better understanding on the chaotic nature of the Orbis, Auriel had a solution: the creation of time itself. No longer was the Orbis stuck in a timeless loop of chaos, but now changes and events will have a sense of permanency, order, and structure. Now, despite all this, just like Anuiel, Sithis too reflected and meditated, eventually birthing a new spirit, a very famous one known as Lorcan. Auriel and Lorcan fought each other, but being both equal yet opposite, just like the generations before them, all the way up to Anu and Padme, one never truly gained an edge over the other. Their great fight continued to add to the chaos and instability of the Orbis, and upon realizing how pointless it was to keep fighting one another generation after generation, Auriel and Lorcan had a meeting and agreed on a set of rules, boundaries, laws, physics, and a balance of order that will guide the Orbis forever, finally causing the universe to become a stable, balanced plane of existence. Upon creating this state, this Aetherius, more and more spirits began to spawn in the Orbis, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. These spirits were known as the Et Ada, and some of these spirits would end up being the very early ancestors of the Aedra and the Daedra, and possibly even Men and Mer themselves. One of the Et Ada changed the course of the Dawn era forever, almost as much as Akatosh himself with the creation of time. And that Et Ada is known as Nur, the spirit of beauty itself. Nur was created at the moment Auriel and Lorcan created a sense of balance and order in the Orbis. Nur is said to have originated from the beauty created between the balance of both light and darkness, order and chaos. Nur, being the natural embodiment of both beauty and balance, caught the attention of Anu and Padme themselves. They both fell deeply in love with Nur and fought viciously over her. Nur did eventually choose Anu, which made Padme very angry and jealous. Being the literal energy that is chaos and change, Padme attacked Nur in a rage, beating her almost to death, prompting Anu to wake up from his slumbers to defend Nur. Anu and Padme fought viciously once again, with Anu eventually beating Padme, supposedly killing him and defeating him forever. But Anu also got wounded in this fight and would eventually die from his injuries soon as well. Now, the lore says Anu and Padme are supposed to be of infinite power. In fact, that is the main difference used to differentiate Anu and Padme from the Et Ada, the Aedra, or the Daedra. So when I talk about Anu and Padme dying here, it's my estimation that they simply fade away until they reach a certain amount of residual reserve power to blink back in, so to speak. Now anyway, back to our godly domestic abuse situation. After Anu beat Padme to metaphysical death, Anu held Nur, who was also pregnant with Anu's child at the time. Before Nur died from her injuries, she birthed Creation, the child of Anu and Nur. Creation was the force that brought upon the final stages of order and balance to the Orbis, leading the way for the creation of Nirn itself. After the birth of Creation, the universe was now more recognizable in a sense, yet Nirn and even Nirn's plane of existence did not exist yet. But now that the Orbis and Aetherius had time, order, balance, and now creation, the Et Ada created 12 unique worlds, each world in equal space from one another, sitting in a row on a circular disc. Each world full of unique beings and spirits. The Hist themselves are said to come from one of these worlds, and some cultures believe that the ancestors of some races even come from these worlds as well, such as the Orsimer or some of the mysterious races of Akavir. During this 12-world period of the Dawn Era, many mysterious realms of existence faded in and out of existence, many of which will never be discovered or be known to anyone in Nirn. And while the Orbis now has a sense of time and structure, the remaining flux and chaos led to more and more spirits being created. There are legends of Alduin himself being created during this period of flux, earning Alduin the title of the World Eater as he tried to destroy entire worlds in a firestorm. Umeral the Unfeathered claimed that his father came from one of these original 12 worlds as well. The mysteries that surround this period are endless, and the answers are none. Yet one. The chaotic yet all-important plan of Lorcan, the Spirit of Sithis. Lorcan's plan was to create a new plane of existence, a plane that would lead to the creation of the mortal realm that would contain Nirn. This plane was known as Mundus, the plane of existence of Nirn, Men, and Mur. Lorcan, being a Potomaic being, embodies change and chaos, and inspired by creation herself and the changes creation made in the Orbis, Lorcan hatched a plan. Many of the Et Ada were unhappy with their own personal planes of existence within the Aetherius, so Lorcan proposed that they all work together to create their own plane of existence, one they can populate with creations and beings of their own where they can collectively rule over it equally. This plane would be known as Mundus, and Mundus would be the hub world, like the center of a wheel, for all of Orbis. Its purpose is to be the soul of the Orbis, a place where aspects of aspects, soul of souls, spirits of spirits could self-reflect and thereby reach immortality, equally or even surpassing the Et Ada who made them, exactly as Talos had done. Only in order to create Mundus, the Et Ada involved would have had to use their own power to create it. It is believed that Kinnereth was one of the first to agree to this plan, creating the space and void needed to form Mundus. And Magnus, another powerful spirit, agreed to be the architect of Mundus. Many other Et Ada joined suit and started using their power to help aid in Mundus's creation, even Akatosh or Oriel himself. Only the Et Ada did not have infinite power to draw from like Anu or Padme did. If they used all of their power, they would lose their godhood. They didn't realize this at first, and they felt like Lorcan tricked them into losing all of their power, as some believed Lorcan knew this would happen all along. When Et Ada discovered they would lose all of their power creating Mundus, some chose to back out and leave and try to hang on to as much of their power as they could. The spirits that fled Mundus back to Aetherius punched holes in the fabric between Mundus and the Aetherius. These holes are the stars that you see in the night sky. And interestingly enough, Magnus, the spirit who served as Mundus's architect and is often always associated with the foundation of magic and magicka, and for good reason, is because he realized rather quickly that the creation of Mundus was going to steal all his powers. So he was one of the first to flee Mundus, punching through the fabric and having most of his power compared to the other Et Ada when they fled. He punched a huge hole in the fabric between Mundus and the Aetherius, creating the Sun. The Sun is a literal portal where magicka from the Aetherius pours into Mundus, allowing the men and Mur of Nirn to harvest this magicka to perform magic, and even giving some magical attributes to the flora and fauna of Nur itself. Some of the Et Ada who lost a lot of power but didn't want to leave the plane of Mundus, they wanted to stay behind to choose to rule over it, left to create their own planes of existence, and these would be the Daedra. They created their own planes so they could have total control over their individual planes, yet still somewhat be linked to Mundus so that they can try and vie for control of Mundus as well. Leaving early on in the creation process, they retained most of their power, yet chose to stay. That is why the Daedra are said to be more powerful than the Aedra, and why the Daedra are generally seen influencing Nur more than the Aedra. Other Et Ada chose to use up most of their power creating Mundus willingly, and then would rest on planes of their own within the plane of Mundus itself. These spirits became the Aedra, and their planes became the other planets within Mundus. Now, throughout all of this turmoil, creation itself was sundered and broken, causing the 12 original worlds of the Orbis to be smashed together into one world, causing a catastrophic and chaotic event event that shifted this world into Mundus. This world was known as Nirn. The only survivors of the merging of the 12 worlds are believed to be the Hist, the ancient sentient trees of Blackmarsh, and possibly the Elnofi, the common ancestor of men and Mer. Although it is also believed by some that the Elnofi were made up of some of the Et'ada who lost all of their power and immortality, creating Mundus. The High Elves actually believe this themselves and are not actually joking when they say that they directly descend from the gods. When the 12 worlds smashed together and when Nirn was created, it is believed that this event caused the Cyrodiilic runestones and the sigil stones, which would later assist in the discovery of enchanting. Others believe that these sigils and runestones are gift from Lorkhan himself to the mortal beings of Nirn, or simply artifacts from some of the original 12 worlds. Some remaining Et'ada begged Anu and Padme to take them back to Aetherius, but for whatever reason, they were refused. It's possible Anu and Padme were still not fully recovered from their most recent battle over Nur, or some cultures state that the new Et'ada already took the places of the ones that left to create Mundus. Another interesting thing about the Elnofi, the common ancestors of men and Mer, is as previously mentioned, some believe that the Et'ada who lost all of their power in the creation of Mundus became the Elnofi, yet others believe that the Elnofi were created by the Et'ada themselves. And those that believe this believe that the Elves and most Mer were created by Auriel and thus Anu, and that Lorkhan and in a sense Padme created the races of man. But this isn't fully accepted or agreed upon by all of the various cultures of Tamriel, and is just something interesting to keep in mind. Now, as you can imagine, many of the spirits were not pleased with Lorkhan tricking them into sacrificing their power to create Mundus. To determine his fate, the Divines held a meeting on Nirn itself, creating the oldest known structure that still stands to this day in Tamriel, the Adamantite Tower. Now, it is said that Lorkhan had his heart removed, but the events surrounding this aren't exact. Some records say that this meant Lorkhan was defeated in battle in front of his army and had his heart torn out, causing his army to disperse and stop fighting. Others say he surrendered willingly and never raised an army in the first place, and that his heart being torn out was a literal ritual in which they ripped his heart out. Either way, his heart was removed, essentially destroying him and binding his energy to Mundus. His heart couldn't be destroyed, so it was shot with an arrow far into the ocean, raising the Red Mountain out of the sea from where it landed. The heart of Lorkhan would later be discovered and used for all sorts of evil reasons, but that's a video for another time. Legends say that upon Lorkhan's death, rain fell from the sky for the first time in Nirn, and the land itself lost its divine spark, letting madness enter the realm of Mundus, creating Sheogorath. Other reports say that Jiglag was cursed during the trial of Lorkhan, and as the spirits themselves grew weary and demanded justice, they cursed Jiglag, splitting him into two, thus creating Sheogorath. Eventually, Azura herself, one of the Aegir responsible for creating Mundus, worked with Messer and Secunda to create the Khajiit. Messer and Secunda were lesser spirits of Mundus and called the Moons of Nirn their home. And at this point, we are pretty late in the Dawn era. The men and Mer of the Elnofi have established various kingdoms across Nirn. These various kingdoms of Elnofi warred with one another, causing the collapse of the three original kingdoms, splintering themselves across the land masses of Nirn, causing them to settle now in what is mostly known as modern-day Admora, Yokuda, and Akavir. Most of the Hists that were from one of the original 12 worlds were also destroyed during this war, except for a few remaining in what is now modern-day Blackmarsh. The Skyforge of Skyrim was also believed to have been built around the end of the Dawn era as well, its purpose being part of the construction of some great paradise, perhaps the forming of an early Nirn into paradise itself. The Dawn era officially ends with the Divines meeting at the Tower, also known as the Adamantite Tower, and when Lorkhan had his heart removed from his chest. When Magnus departed Mundus after Lorkhan's trial, everything was pressed and formed into the one and constant reality that we know now, leaving Mundus its own, now thriving plane of existence in the middle of the Orbis, with Aetherius, the realm of the gods, the Et'ada, of Anu and Padme, of Sithis, divided by Mundus by the plains of Oblivion. An empty void except for the plains of each Daedric prince and perhaps a few other undiscovered realms and secrets. We now end the Dawn era, and with it the turbulent, mysterious, and chaotic creation of the Orbis and Mundus, as well as Nirn, the planet where all of the stories of the Elder Scrolls take place, and where all of our adventures are told. Hopefully you have a better understanding of the most mysterious and far back time period of Elder Scrolls lore. If you have any remaining questions, or if you have anything you'd like to add, feel free to comment below. With how deep and mysterious Elder Scrolls lore is, I wouldn't be surprised if I missed something somehow. And since the various cultures of Tamriel all have their own tales regarding the creation of the universe, I'm may touch on each culture's unique take on this tale in future videos. If you want to learn more about the Elder Scrolls or news regarding the Elder Scrolls 6, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn notifications on so you can be one of the first to watch new videos. Also, be sure to follow me on that Twatters so we can talk and so you can get news about the channel first. And as always, thank you for watching. Be sure to tune in next time when we learn about how that gigantic squirrel on Skooma created his own plane of existence and why you should never go there. You thought the Shivering Isles was bad? Ha! Wait until you go to giant Skooma Squirrel Isles. No. No! I'm not going with you! Here's a portal. Go through it and fuck off. I'm not going. You can't make me. Fine, I'm going. Hang on, give me a second. That squirrel's pretty cool. I kinda miss him.
Bye, have a great time.